Welcome to another episode of Prevailing Through Pain, where today our guest is the Honorable Rachel Proctor, Mayor of DeSoto. So thank you, Mayor, for being here today with us.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for having me here. So good to see you.
You too. So I know this is a busy time for you, and I do really, really, really appreciate you squeezing me in. But, I told you from the minute I met you that I think you are amazing.
Thank you. Likewise.
And thank you. And so, the world sees us where they meet us. And most people, when we get to a certain point in life, are people that are in our circles, but they don't know us from our humble beginnings of what got us to where we are today. So can we go all the way back to your humble beginnings?
We can go back. You just tell me where you want to start.
I want the world to know about our viewers to know, Mayor Proctor is the little girl Rachel.
Wow. Oh, where do I start? So, I grew up as a preacher's kid. So many people don't know that, but a lot of what I do, and like I said, sometimes being the mayor overshadows that, but a lot of what I do is ministry. Because I grew up in the church, I never thought I would be there, but I do. But yeah, I grew up. My dad was a pastor and he was a businessman, so we grew up working in the church, and we also grew up working in the family business. I can remember being 12 years old in my dad's office learning how to make payroll. And so in our family school, and actually our family school is still in Dallas today. My sister and I are the co-owners of it, and it's been there over 30 years. And so
Really?
that's been a huge part of my life. And and when we talk about the little girl Rachel and who I am today, really, I think my upbringing in the church and in the family business, being able to not be afraid of working hard, has really made me who I am today, and it translates over into everything I do.
So, been raised up as a PK.
Yeah.
So tell us about some of those challenges, because even though I wasn't raised as a PK, I was raised in Church of God in Christ by my grandmother.
Okay.
And so Sister Lewis is grandchild, and it's like everybody watches you.
Yes.
To see, to hope that you mess up so they can say, "I know they wasn't." Yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up Kojic as well. So that's something we have in common. And it's exactly that. And not a lot different, I would say. I think some of that prepared me for where I am now, because that's a lot. Eyes are always on me now. And sometimes people wish you well and other times people don't wish you well. And so that's something that I think that thankfully God conditioned me for, even growing up. And it was challenging growing up in the church, because a lot of what was to be done was on the family. That's whether that was people don't know, but I know how to play the drums. So I started playing the drum set at 9 years old because somebody had to play them at church. I thought I was gonna be the gospel Sheila E.
Do you sing?
I sing like a bird. So we had to sing, we had to do praise and worship, even translated over to doing administrative things in the church, parking cars, selling the literally whatever had to be done in the church, the family had to do it. And so I'm, like I said, I'm no stranger to all of that. And so it was challenges, but I think, well, I know that a lot of what I got to do in terms of even grooming me for leadership and how to serve people, it came from that for sure.
Yeah. As a teenager, was it a little more difficult to try to keep those I's dotted and T's crossed?
Yeah. So, but my dad was a man's man. He was a strong man, and he put the fear of the Lord and fear of him. And so, I will say that, he was very present. My mom and my dad were very present in the household. And, there were just a lot of things we didn't even try because we knew that
The consequences were
was going to bring down the consequences swiftly. But no, it was, you want to do other things. You want to go to, you want to go to dances. You want to listen to, we couldn't listen to FM radio. We couldn't listen to, all those things. And so you want to do those things. But then you see when you get older, you didn't miss a whole lot growing up. But yeah.
So siblings you have?
I have to always think about this. I have three sisters, and I have one brother that's living, and then we have another brother. He was the oldest out of us. He's deceased.
What number are you?
I'm number 5. I'm the youngest.
Oh, you baby girl. I'm number 2 out of 7.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So our positions were a little different.
Yeah.
But they always say it's the hardest child is for the the oldest child gets the hardest. The youngest child gets all the breaks because they've worn the parents down, worn the parents down by that point. But I think about where you were saying my grandmother was really strict, but I think for us, because we were the grandchildren, she was a little more worn down. So I remember having to wear those dresses down here, no jewelry, definitely no makeup. And I remember one summer we were having a revival. I was kind of a rebel. And so my grandmother makes me go up in front of the church and we're saying, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus. And I remember I, wasn't supposed to swallow. So I started bubbling here at the corners of my mouth and I swallowed. And the lady hit me in the back and she said, let that sin out. And me, there ain't no sin, that spit. Here comes my grandmother. So
Yeah, and so that story is so true for me as well because there's a 12 or 13-year gap between my older siblings and my sister that's closest in age to me. Because they told my mom she couldn't have any more kids after she had my sister Yolanda. Then
I have a sister
13 years
Yolanda.
later, she had my sister Keisha, then she had me. So I'm like, well, I guess that wasn't true. So by the time they had us, they were kind of over it because my older siblings, they couldn't wear pants. They could, they were very strict. By that time, they had at least we could wear culottes, as they say. We
Got
could
you
at
like a
least cut
skirt in the front.
got a little skirt in the front. So they had kind of, like you said, kind of gotten worn down. I can remember we would sometimes every now and then when we would try it, they would try to take our keys to the car and try to so-called put us on punishment. Then when they realized they had to take us everywhere, they're like, "Look, just take the keys, just
And
go
you better,
again."
yeah.
So they
That's
were like that with
funny.
us. Yeah.
So I'm sure your older sibling said, you have it easy.
Uh-huh.
Because that's what we said to my baby sister.
Yeah.
So after high school, did you do any sports, any activities in high school?
So I did sports in junior high and high school. I ran track and I played basketball. So I played for the DeSoto Eagles. And so yeah, I did. I stopped playing sports probably around my 10th grade year when I well 10th grade of junior year. And then I kind of got into all of the things that I think I was always interested in, but I never felt like they were the cool things to be interested in. So I've always been a great writer. I've always been able to really articulate and express my thoughts through writing well. Even from a small child, I could write very well. And so I started getting interested in like debate club, and I started getting more involved in the student governance or like your student councils, National Honor Society, class president, those types of things. I started honing my leadership skills, I think, and not really being afraid to be me. I think sometimes I tell people I live a secret life as a nerd. So back then, being smart wasn't really cool.
Yeah.
So, but then I think around my 10th grade year, 11th grade year, I started kind of coming into my own, even with the clothes that I would wear. I would go to the thrift store and come back with, clothes I paid 25 cents for, or just all the things.
Then everybody telling you how cute you
And
look.
everybody tells me how cute it looks. And so I started really coming into my own and just really learning what it meant to be who I was and being comfortable with that. Whether or not other people thought it was cool or not. I started really doing that. And so around about that time, I started getting into all the things. And then even when I went to college, I was a first generation college student. And so I had no idea. I had no plans to go to college. So my parents didn't discourage me from going to college, but they also didn't know how to support me in that because they had not had that frame of reference. My dad only had a sixth grade education. So, but he knew he wanted more for his kids, and even with the things that he instilled in us growing up. And so I was flying. I felt like I was flying by the seat of my pants. I knew, looking back on it now, I think we can all say that, there were some things that God was divinely orchestrating with the steps that I took. But that's when I went off to college. I went to UT Arlington and ended up moving out there, getting staying on campus for a little while, then getting an apartment. Then when I graduated, I came back and bought my first house in DeSoto. Actually,
At what age?
This was around. I was 21.
Wow.
My dad. It was at the encouragement of my dad because he was like, "Y'all are wasting all this money paying rent, and you're not getting anything." So this was back when the market was drastically different. When we got that house, no money down, no money down, and my sister and I, I was 21, so she had to be 22 or 23 at the time. And so very different at the time. But this was my first experience with getting a tax bill in the mail. Nobody tells me about that. It was all good and no money down. Then you get the tax bill, and it's like, look,
What
I
is
want to speak
this?
to the manager. Because what is this?
Yeah, I know, right? That is
And
funny.
so that's how I actually started getting involved in what was going on civically around me. Because I'm like, tax dollars. Who's the county? Who's this? Who's the ISD? Where's all this money going?
Look, I don't even have kids. That was me with my ignorance. I'm like, I don't even have kids. What do you mean I'm paying for school taxes?
Yeah, so all of these questions I had. So I started getting involved even just in my HOA civically. Then I started serving on some city boards. I got involved on library board. I was a chamber board member for a while. Just different things. I started getting involved in the school district because obviously I was a DeSoto High School graduate. So I felt like that was something that I was called to, and I still feel very called to the youth and as an alumni to DeSoto ISD. And I got the bright idea to run for school board. I felt like it was low hanging fruit because I'm an alumni, it'll be great, right? And DeSoto had already, I guess, I proven that they would vote for young people for that because this was the time when Warren C., who was the youngest at the time, he was the youngest elected official in Dallas County, Aubrey Hooper, different young people had already been elected to the school board. So DeSoto had already identified that they would elect young people for that.
Right.
But I didn't see representation on city council, so I just never even made it a thing. It was just never even something that I thought I would ever do because I didn't see anybody that I felt like represented me. And not even that there were no women, because there had been women. I just didn't feel like I resonated with the people that were there. And so I felt like it wasn't even for me. So I never even considered it.
Okay, so before we get any further into this part of your life, I want to know about a dark period that you can remember and how you navigated through it.
Oh,
You said which time?
Let me find out which one. I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna be very vulnerable here. Because I think it's important that people realize that a lot of times people see my public wins, but they don't always see how hard it is to fight through a lot of things that we go through, even with doubting ourselves. I think that there are ways that when I get outside of myself, I can have confidence that God is with me in certain situations, but we're human. And a lot of times we still don't always feel like it's going to work out or how's it going to, and I remember my first, bout. It was in my early 20s. I remember my first bout with depression. And back then there was not this mental health push. There was not this open dialogue about mental health. So I had no idea what it even was. And I wasn't eating. I mean, when I say I got all the way down to, I was probably, before that, I probably was 145 pounds. I think I got down to 119. And it was one of those things that it's like, okay, what is going on with me? It's like, even when things are good, I'm still sad. And so, I try to be somebody that really, tries to help understand, because even now, while it has not gotten that bad, even now there are times if I'm not careful and if I'm not guarding my thoughts and if I'm not even natural things, eating right, making sure I'm getting enough rest, making sure I'm not eating too much processed foods, making sure I keep dairy out of my diet, all these different things that we don't feel like impact us in that way can definitely impact, especially when you live a busy life and you have a lot of things going on. It can be easy to get lax in those. And I think sometimes, and I don't know, I may get in trouble for saying this, but I think sometimes, especially as Christians, we over spiritualize a lot of things that go on with us. But sometimes it's that you need to get more rest, or you just need to slow down, or you need to eat better, right? You need to drink more water, right? Like these types of things. And so I remember really going through that, and just really now I think having a deeper understanding for people that struggle with depression, and really being able to spot it when I see it, especially in leaders. And that is a thing that I think God has given me a grace and a gift for, going through my own battles and my own journey with that. And so I'm grateful that he allowed me to go through it, because I better understand now the struggles that leaders go through, especially and be able to help that consider like myself, where I say, are high functioning, right? And you can still be high functioning and still be battling internally.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I remember, and this is what vexes me when somebody will say, "How you doing?" and they on down the street, and you never heard how I was doing. And when I became a leader in a hospital, one of the things that I would do with every shift, when I'd walk in there, I'd go to each person and I'd say, "Good morning, so and so. Good afternoon, so and so. And, how are you?" And I would literally stop
And wait.
to wait to see how they were doing. And if somebody said, "I'm okay," and I knew that person's MO was, "Hey, I'm good," then I'd say, "Are you really?" Because I knew that wasn't how they, normally were. And so I'd say, "Do you need to come talk to me?" And I think we're in a world that everything is so hurry, hurry, or we're so quick to judge someone. So when I hear somebody say, he's just crazy, she's just crazy. So I'm saying he's just crazy, she's just crazy for maybe a reason, and so, yeah, that means that maybe there is something that person, if whether it's an EAP, if it's an employee, or if someone that where you say what signs and symptoms to look for, that you say, "Hey, yeah, I think that's so important." So
It's so important. And I think that because a lot of times, especially women like you and I who are strong, and can sometimes take a lot, and are some oftentimes the rock for our family, or the person that everybody goes to or that everybody comes to, oftentimes we get overlooked and they don't check on us as much because we can take and we can hold and we can handle a lot. And sometimes it's our own fault, because I know sometimes I'm hesitant to ask for help because I don't want to feel like, okay, I don't want to feel like I'm putting this on someone else. But that happens a lot. And so again, God has given me a grace for that, to recognize that, especially for women that are in our arenas and in our places where people rely on them so much.
Yeah. I had an appointment with our city manager last week, and I very seldom go talk to him about anything because I just feel like the weight of the world is on him as it is.
Yeah.
And so, and the meeting that I was having with him was to go over my town hall that's coming up, right? And I went to another district's town hall, which was just last week, and I thought, I'm just going to try to keep it in the same lineup, except a couple of different things, so it's not putting extra responsibility on the city manager. So I kept the meeting, and I go in the meeting, and I said, "How are you?" And I think that's so important. And I say that to anyone that has a leader that you're always going in to say what the problems are with you, check on your leader.
Yeah.
So I need y'all to check on my mayor here.
Yes, yes. So again, it's just so important to just be aware of that. And that's why I'm so big on, and I have this saying, progress moves at the speed of relationships. And building and not even that you have to get a personal relationship, but at least building rapport with the people that you work with, so you know what's normal or maybe not normal, right? For the people that you're working closely with, so that you can recognize those signs when somebody may be going through something. And it isn't that they just divulge what's actually going on, but maybe that's, hey, if you need to step away, I can handle this for you, I can get this for you, or how can I help you, right? Or how can I support you? And you never know how far that can go with somebody.
Yeah. And I think what you said is so important because people do look at us as, well, she can handle it. Nothing bothers her.
Right.
They don't see that. They don't see us going home and just burying our head under the bed, not in the bed, under the bed, and saying, "I'm not coming out." And I've learned to say, "No, I need to breathe. I can't breathe right now." And I will take that time, and I'll tell people, I'm taking this weekend to have my pity party. It's my weekend, my pity party. I'll come out on Monday, but this weekend,
It's for you.
yeah, it's for me because we can't be that support for other people if we don't take care of us.
You can't pour from an empty
Yeah,
cup.
and I really think it's important that people understand that's okay. And no,
Yeah.
that word, those two letters, it's so hard for a lot of people to say no.
Yeah.
No rolls off my tongue so quick these days.
It
No.
does now. It does for me now. I was one of those people that struggled to say no because I felt like I was saying no to them and not no to what they were asking me.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was rejecting them when in fact I'm just saying no to what you're asking me to do. And so I actually got tactical with it and I created like responses because I'm like, listen, I just got too many things coming at me and
Mm-hmm.
most of it I'm going to say no to. And so I said, well, sometimes it's not just no, but hey, no, I can't do it, but hey, here's somebody that can help you
Mm-hmm.
with that, or no, not right
Right.
now.
No, right
Circle
now.
back with me next month, or just whatever those things are. So I can give them at least something somewhere to go. But I found that also, everybody's okay with you. Girl, I would have told them blah, blah, blah. They're okay with your no until it applies to
To
them.
Bill.
They're
Mayor
okay.
Proctor, hold that thought. We're going to take a break for our sponsor.
Great.
Do you have a powerful story of perseverance? Have you triumphed over pain and want to share your story with the world? We're looking for inspiring guests to join us on the Prevailing Through Pain podcast. Head over to KarenSheridan.me/guest. Fill out the form and let us know your story. Your voice could be the one to inspire others. Your experience can be the one to lift up someone else. Go to KarenSherry.me/guest.
We're back. So you are absolutely right. They can tell you who to tell no to, and then
Right.
all of a sudden you say no to them, and it's a fight. You're the worst person. You have horns, and I can't believe.
Yeah, it's one of those things, but you have to also be realistic with the expectations you put on yourself because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes people absolutely do put unrealistic expectations, but sometimes we can do that to ourselves. And I
Mm-hmm.
know for me, um I've learned and I'm very naturally introverted and I thought that just meant I'm shy, but no, being introverted really to me shows how you recharge, how you get energy. I don't get energy by being around a lot of people. That
Mm-hmm.
actually drains me. People assume because I'm in a public space and my job is very public and it requires me to always be peopling, as they say, that gives me energy, but it really does not. I love the people and I love being amongst the people,
Mm-hmm.
but in order for me to recharge and really gather myself, I have to really get away in order to do that. And so understanding that, I know better now the way that I would do because we go to so many galas. We were just
I
at some
know.
events
I
the
know.
other weekend. I feel like we were at a gala every other weekend for the last few months.
Mine has
Um,
been every weekend for the
yes.
past few months.
And so, I would even tell my team, when they were scheduling me for different things, I'm like, well, when is the VIP hour and what time does that end so that I can make sure I casually show up at the end, and
Mm-hmm.
just go to my seat and then go, because I was starting to understand about myself. I'm like, oh my goodness. Now, of course, you can't always be like that when you're in a public space. There are some expectations of being places in there. And like I said, building relationships and networking is important,
Mm-hmm.
but again, you got to know when your battery needs to be recharged, because again, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yep. And where you said you're an introvert, so and people to see you in the public eye, you wouldn't think that a person in your position would be an introvert. And I think, but the thing is, where you said you have to know when to
Pull back.
pull back and when you need to be out in front of the public. I think so many times people in leadership positions do feel like they have to be at everything. They have to be
Oh,
everybody. I think some people just thrive on that, but
yeah,
that's
that's
another
another
story.
that's another
Yeah,
podcast,
but
isn't
in order, I know,
it?
but in order to actually be effective,
Yes.
you do. You do have to, and I learned that first year. Oh my God. I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And it seemed like no matter how much I did for certain people, it just
It's
wasn't
not going to
enough.
be enough.
So the Karen 3 years later has learned a lot of no, it's okay. Or like you said, I'm gonna get you the information, but it was, you have to
Because
learn.
sometimes you can, and I'm not going to say handicap an individual,
You
but
can
you can
handicap an
you can
individual.
deprive them of growth. I'm gonna
Yeah.
put it that way. Of growing, like this is where the information is located. This is how you can find the information. I've had to learn, and then I kind of go into my role as mayor, really as an elected official in general, because like you, my first couple of I'll say my first couple of years, I was ripping and running. And not even that I didn't enjoy the rip and run from time to time, but I felt like there was an obligation or an expectation that I'm going to show up to every single thing. And it was even at the expense of family time, and it was at the expense of personal time and exhaustion, those types of things. And really, when you really, a lot of people, they would always come tap me, some of the older, especially my older residents. Baby, are you getting sleep? You should probably go ahead and go. You don't have to stay the whole time. We see you,
Those 80s ain't
yeah,
tea.
yeah. And so I started getting the hint, and it's just like, we sometimes we put those expectations
On
on ourselves to
ourselves.
feel like for the fear of missing out on something, or I'm gonna be forgotten if I'm not at everything, when really people will remember you, and you'll be just fine when you get to the next thing,
Yeah.
that after you've gotten some sleep or had some time away or spent time with your family or other people. Because I say, I tell especially people that are looking to get into this arena, my advice always to them is, don't put your family and your loved ones on the back burner for this, because these seats are temporary. And the thing that comes, the other part of that is, a lot of times people will hail you and they'll boost you up and they'll lift you up, and then you do the first thing that you do that they don't like.
That they don't like. And
I say they'll hail you, then they can nail you, right? So you just have to be careful putting everything on the back burner, to if you feel like if this requires it, because believe it or not, coming from somebody, and I posted this week, at the time of this recording, that this Wednesday, March 5th, made my 12th year since I took my first oath of office as a council member. And I can't believe it's been over a decade, but it has.
wow.
And I'm like, where did the time go? And so you learn a lot. You learn a lot about how to just be yourself in the role. And I think that that's been the biggest growth assignment that I'm grateful for, that I've gotten in this. Because I tell people, I'm like, if your self-esteem is not intact, getting in these types of seats,
It's not the seat
it's not
for
the
you.
seat for you, because it's going to test everything you believe about yourself and know about yourself. This can tear you down quicker than anything if you don't know who you are.
Because I had been single for so long, and it just so happened when I met my now husband, I had decided I was going to run for city council.
Yeah.
And retiring, I mean, that was the part of my life where I'm like, okay, I've worked so hard to build my business. I took care of my mother, I took care of my grandmother, and now it's my turn. And this was my goal. I'm gonna spend as much of my money as I can before I die. That was my goal. But God always has a different plan. Like, slow your roll, Karen. This wasn't all about you,
Yeah.
And then when it came about that, and actually I was on my sofa, and I was saying that my city council member, and I'm gonna say his name, Mark Cooks, had said he wasn't going to run for, that seat. And I was in my feelings saying, well, who's going to represent us? Because we can't go backwards. And I was talking to a couple of people saying, my city council, and someone said, well, why don't you run? No, said, that's not my life. I wouldn't even know what to do. And they said, it's a serving position. I said, well, I've served all I want to serve. And then someone else said something. I'm laying on my sofa watching television. My brother had just died of COVID, my brother up under me. And I could hear God as clear as day say, Karen, when you can't do what I need you to do, I don't need you here anymore. Girl, I got up off that sofa and I started filling out, how do I do this? And look, knocking on doors. Hi, I'm Karen Cherry. I'm running for city council. And it's about, it's about being a servant. But I also believe it's also where you said in educating the community on where they can find certain things, because even this long, there's a constituent that, and I hope my constituent is watching, and that's okay, that had my personal phone number. And when she, and I would try to give information as well as being on my Facebook page, as well as posting stuff on Nextdoor, but got upset because I didn't text her about a particular event. I said, that's my fault, because I should have given her, if you don't know, if you're not, in the website, if you don't know what our website is, or even our weekly newsletter that comes out. So now what I do is educate people on how they can find that. So in the event that I don't post or text you, you can find those things. So I think it's helping other people to utilize growth, helping other people with their growth. True.
That's so good.
So one of the happiest moments you can remember in your life.
Ooh. You know what? I didn't expect that question. I would say
There could even be a place you visited, just something that
a
you're
happy
like,
moment. You know what? Opening my new business. I think it's something recent because I was going back, trying to go back, but actually recent. Last year I opened up my first restaurant.
I didn't even know that.
You didn't know that? I remember we
No,
talked about this.
no, ma'am.
Yes, last October we had our grand opening. Not after it was hard fought, and it took a while to get there, but we finally opened up our first location
Where?
in Midlothian.
What's the name of it?
Salada Salad Kitchen.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I will certainly
And so
come
it was
visit.
a happy moment for me. And again, when you put so much, it was hard to get there. It was a lot of hard work. I mean, a lot of sacrifices. But when we finally got there, and I was just like, okay, Lord, I done gave it everything. I done gave it all I can give it. Now I'm giving it to you, and you're going to take us wherever we need to go. We ended up that grand opening day. We ended up having the highest grossing grand opening day that year and the second highest grossing grand opening in Salada history.
Well, congratulations. No, you
I
know,
wasn't
if I had,
expecting that. Yeah.
if I had known
So
that, you
was a
know, I
happy
would have
day.
been there. I don't even remember
I'm
seeing.
have to make sure you come out.
I don't even remember seeing that on Facebook. Anything.
You know, so we can go into it. We can get into it. I shied away from really sharing because I don't know. I don't know if and some of my best friends and people shared, right? And so I reshared what they shared. But I don't know. There was something in me. I'm like, I don't want to seem too excited. Like there's something that
Let's just say everybody's not always as happy
As happy
for
about
us
it
as
as
we're
you
about.
are,
Yeah, and that's so sad. You know, I always think about Oprah and Gail. Remember when Oprah gave Gail $1 million because she said she wanted her best friend to be a millionaire as well. And I feel like so many people miss out on blessings because they're so busy envying what somebody else has than
because there's enough for everybody, and
it is.
I'm learning to celebrate. And I probably had so many more things that I think that I could probably have listed to happen. But sometimes, and I talk with my therapist about this. Sometimes I don't know. I just shy away from sharing a lot of things because I'm just like, okay, well, it's okay or something. I'll downplay different things, and I said, I've got to work on that.
Yeah.
And celebrating every single win.
You know, somebody said to me one time about sharing a lot of things, and I said, I feel like, well, because it's not about me. And I said, I feel like I'm shortchanging God if I don't.
Ooh.
Because I said, I ask God for these things and they come to pass, and to not give him the glory and let people see what he's done for me. So you can say all you want to about, she's posting this again, talking, from a little girl that held her head down. I'm saying me, because people said that I was ugly, or from a girl that as a young as a young adult was going to commit suicide because someone had taken her virginity, to, to letting God do God in my life. No, ma'am, my head is up high. And if you can't appreciate, somebody else will.
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah, no, God has been so good to me. And so that hit me when you said that. That really did.
Yeah, so no, I'm always, when I see things that you do post, that could just be like you and your girls were doing a pajama party or something. Now you're showing your Christmas tree and different, it always makes me smile because it's the person that I know of, about you. And I appreciate the fact that you threw in there, you said a therapist. I think so many times we keep things so internal because if you try to talk to a friend or relative, people are judging you, telling you shouldn't feel a certain way. And so if it's someone that doesn't know us, or that's what their job is to listen to us, because I remember going through a divorce and I went to a therapist, And she was cracking up. She was like, why do you come talk to me? Because she says, you see me writing, but the stuff I'm writing down is because I'm going to use it with my next patient, telling them that'll try. And I said, because it just feels good to get it out and to, and to hear myself say it because it helps me move, helps me move on. So I think that's really important that we have someone or something that we can do to help us get to that.
Get it out so that you don't, so that you understand you don't have to go through things by yourself. I think that it's important that, like you said, everybody doesn't have family members or friends that they trust, and even if you do, sometimes it's good to have that person that is a professional in that arena to be able to help you. Because I know I have plenty of people around me that I love and that I can trust. But they don't always, it isn't that they don't support me. Sometimes they just genuinely don't know how.
Right.
And sometimes we can be asking people to give us things that they just genuinely do not have to give us. It's not because they don't love us. It's not because they don't care for us and want to see us do well. They just don't have the tools themselves. So how can they give you something that they don't have?
I agree.
And so to get a therapist or to get a support group or to get some, just a mentor, somebody that is professional or proficient in that area, to be able to talk to about those specific things I think it can be a game changer, especially when you got a lot going on that you need to sometimes talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you're up for re-election, and that can be draining. And it looks like there are a few people that have put their names in the hat. And although we wish them well, you will forever be my Mayor Proctor of DeSoto. And, I look back, because I'm recently in the game, but look back at all the things that you've done to get to this point. And I would like for you to look in the camera and just tell your community why you do what you do.
I think for me, DeSoto is a community that I grew up in. I came to DeSoto when I was in the 3rd grade. I went to Northside Elementary, graduated from DeSoto High School, and DeSoto is a community that has given so much to me. And so it's been the honor of a lifetime to be able to serve the community and to give back to the community in the way that I've been able to do as serving as mayor. And so it's always about the people. It's always about what they need. It's always about making sure everybody has the best quality of life. I tell people and remind people, my mom still lives in DeSoto. I have siblings here. I have people I grew up with, people that taught me as a child that still live in the community. So the work that I get to do every single day, I tell people I get to do it. I don't have to do it. So the work that I get to do every single day, again, has been the honor of a lifetime, and I would love to continue to be able to serve in that way.
Awesome. So, Mayor Proctor, because running a campaign, it costs, and you need support. So how can people find you to help with your campaign?
So in order to get all things Rachel for DeSoto regarding the campaign, you can go to rachelfordesoto.com. That's Rachel, F-O-R, DeSoto, D-E-S-O-T-O. And you can find ways to donate, to volunteer if you want a yard sign. You can request all those things. You can see many of the things that we've done, whether that's individual progress or whether that's collective progress as a city that we've made. And so you can check us out at rachelfordesoto.com.
Thank you. Well, Mayor Proctor, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. And I just love you much and wish you much success in whatever you do. And I will be coming to that restaurant.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, love you more.